Sincerely.
Sicker, taking care of your tomorrow today.
Every year, people spend thousands of dollars on pedigreed show-quality dogs. Fancy, right? Now look at your own dog. I'll wait. Feeling like the dollar value of your beloved pooch might be a little lacking? Hi, I'm Charlie Sousa. With my patented formula for canine restoration, my team and I flipped over 800 dogs last year alone. And this year, we hope to double, triple, or even quadruple the value of your domesticated best friend. Paid $100 for your chihuahua at a rescue shelter? We'll take that little shaky son of a bitch and duct tape a spoiler to his hiney, increasing downforce and road traction. Bingo, bango, bongo, that mutt is easily worth his weight in pewter commemorative figurines. It's as easy as that. Has Rex's eyesight started to fail in his twilight years? My system will teach you to prop him up in front of a piano while wearing sunglasses as we pipe in the music of a beloved king of blind piano, Ray Charles. Rex's net worth has just increased by 11%. It's just that easy. Flip That Dog LLC is the only solution you'll need for all your dog estimates, restoration, and reappraisals. Hire us today or buy my new book, Life's a Bitch, and Now I'm Rich, by Charles Sousa. Call now. Don't spend money on your pooch. Make it. Flip that dog. Woo! Hey,
Come on, everybody. Welcome to a very special Tuesday afternoon edition of Owen and Dirk's Pop Culture Radio. Owen is working today, but we do have Mr. Bushy here. Woo! And our guest here, the reason why we're doing the show, Mr. John Babcock.
Well, talking to the mic.
I am right here. I'm admiring your studio.
Yeah, last time you were on the show, we were out there at the kitchen dining room table. Yeah. So we're doing this because John is going to be at the Ritz Theater in Sanford, Florida on April 14th at 3 p.m. And we're going to talk a little bit about the show he's doing. And also, so this is going to be somewhat of a reaction video because you've never heard any of this story here.
I've never heard any of this. I'm a total noob.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's all new, huh?
This is great. Yeah, so John, hold on, let me get your mic set here.
Yeah, you got to almost like put your mouth right
Yeah,
on
you
it.
should talk right into it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
there we go. So
Talk into the microphone.
everyone who listens to the show, everyone knows Fritz. Fritz has been on the show quite a few times. Fritz and I have known John for quite a while. We all used to hang out at this place called St. Andrew's Tavern. I know you had your St. Andrew's nights.
A couple times. They might know me there, even though I've only been there 3 times.
I just played there the other night.
Yeah, Saturday.
Really?
He
Yeah.
played there when we were doing the show, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be back probably in June. We're going to do another. I'll do another solo show there.
That's such a fun place.
Oh, it's
isn't it?
fun. I've been playing there since '94.
Yeah.
When it first opened.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. With your 5 owners.
Yeah, last time that he played there, Heather and Britt went out there
Okay.
and hung out for the show. I was there, but I was in the middle of conversations with all kinds of people about things. So, I was
gonna say,
networking a little bit.
If I would have
but-
known, I would have went out. But then you said it was during our show, so
Right. Yeah, this week's one was the most recent one. But so Fritz and I, when we met John, every time we were around him, he had a new story, and that was my favorite part of all of it. Is that the guy he's like I say lovingly, he's the Forrest Gump of all the music you know.
okay.
Like he's the guy that he's the guy that was there. He's the guy that dropped the chair that made Ike Turner mic his amp in his Sunset Studio. Like that kind of dumb, crazy stuff.
You're a funny guy, Rick.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But
That's true.
He's
So
a catalyst.
yeah. So
It's goofy.
I
It's
want to
fun.
kind of start at the beginning because this is my favorite part of it is when I was a kid, there was a handful I mean, I had my parents' record collection at my disposal my whole life. So I got into a lot of different kind of things. But one of the albums that my mom used to constantly play and that Jeff and I to this day still listen to was an album called Nilsson Schmilsson by Harry Nilsson.
Oh, my favorite.
His go-to karaoke songs, he sings Without You, the Harry version.
Oh, we have a Harry fan.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I like me some Nelson.
So this story, me and Jeff were just like, you have to be kidding me. So he's from a little town called Nyack, New York, upstate, right? And what year was this, you'd say?
We met him in '84.
Okay, 1984.
Yeah.
So why don't you go and tell the story how you came to be friends with Harry Nilsson?
Well, what happened was my brother Ryerson and I were going to England, and no, I'm sorry. Let me go back down. It was actually early '85. We were planning on going to Abbey Road, and I was going to record songs for my first album called Out of the Blue.
Yeah.
And it turns out that the limo driver that was bringing us to the airport and back for the airport was also Harry's limo driver. And so he had his own business, so he kind of said to us, "Hey, you ever hear a guy named Harry Nilsson?" I said, "Yeah, of course." And he says, "Well, he just moved into this house there, and I've been driving him around." I said, "Really?" And he says, "Yeah." And he says, I said, "Man, that's really cool." And so he told us his address. So my brother and I, being young, 25-year-old guys, you're pretty, gutsy. I said, "Man, wouldn't it be cool if we went over there and said hello to this guy?" So, I mean, now you would just, that's kind of rude to do, just drop in, but we got his address. I said, "Hey, no, we're gonna go meet him." And we figured, well, maybe he might be able to help us out in England, seize the moment of opportunity, right? So we went over we just showed up. Nice sunny day. We found the address, and it was a modest house. He was renting the house with his family, Una, his wife, and his 4 kids. It was a pretty big house, but we went there, we rang the bell, and the lady answered and she was, the cleaning lady.
Yeah.
I says, "Hello. Hi." I says, "Hey." She goes, "Can I help you?" I says, "Is Harry here?" "We're here to see Harry." She says, and then from the door was open. I could see. Look there. There was a second story, and we heard from up above, "Who is that down there?" And I recognized the voice. And she goes, "Oh, there's these boys down here. They want to say hello." And he goes, "Okay, well," and then so he came down, and you got to remember, this is '84, so this is only 12 years after Nilsson Schmilsson, right? So it's not that, it was amazing. There he was. He was in the bathrobe. And
I like the idea that he sung "Who is that down there?" like he only speaks in song.
Yeah, exactly. And but he was there. He was. He had his walked up there and had the bathrobe on.
The
it was
signature
like
bathrobe from the cover of Nilsson Schmilsson.
It looks like he walked in. He was 10 years old or whatever it was. 73, 84. That's right, 10 years.
Yeah.
And there he was. And he says, "How you doing?" I said, "Hey, John." I said, "I'm John. This is my brother Rye, and we thought we'd drop in." And he shook my hand. He goes, "Well, let's drop into the living room." Very Harry.
Yeah.
And so we went in there, and he welcomed us in. And there was stuff like, boxes like they just got there.
Yeah.
So I had a CD, and I actually had a cassette tape.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. I had a cassette at that time on my first album, Out of the Blue. So I said, "Listen, I want you to hear something." I told him, I'm a musician. I said, I'm working over in England and all that. My brother has helped me out. And he goes, "Oh, that's cool." And then he said, and I said, "I understand you were over there with the Beatles during the White Album time." I knew my history.
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Oh, yeah, it was a mess. There was wires everywhere," he says. He says, "Yeah, I was there when George was recording Piggies." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." And then so we had a little chat and all that. I gave him the cassette. And he goes, "If you know how to hook this thing in here, we can listen to it." And it was like, wires everywhere, and
His stereo wasn't
even hooked up yet. So that's when we met him. And then what happened was about a year later, I ran into him. My brother and I ran into him at O'Donoghue's in Nyack, which was our watering hole.
Like your St. Andrews.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it became his watering hole.
Oh, yeah.
And he got real tight with one of the owners, Paul O'Donoghue. And then it just went from there. And for the next 2 years, we had times with him and shenanigans,
Yeah.
and he helped me out, which is really cool. He liked the album. He eventually heard the Out of the Blue album, and he loved the song called "Singer Without a Song."
Yeah.
You
That's
remember that one?
we've played that one before. That's a great one. That's what I thought was funny too is when he sent you to meet the guy when you guys were going over to Abbey Road. And he's like, "Oh, you're gonna want to call my friend," and it's the guy who signed the Sex Pistols. It's
Yeah.
like the A&R guy for Abbey Road. That's who he sends you over there
Yeah,
to hang out with.
And it turns out, that he lived right down the street from Abbey Road in this beautiful Tudor house with his wife and his two beautiful daughters, little daughters, and so yeah, he was good. He set me up with some publishers and people that he knew, and which helped immensely.
Yeah.
But he really liked the song. He liked the album, but he liked "Singer Without a Song." That was his favorite one on there. And I remember one time, and what an honor, I sang with him one time.
Oh yeah.
One time. Not the whole song, but he had the album for a while, and then he showed up with some friends from California at O'Donoghue's in Nyack.
Mm-hmm.
And at the front door, he goes, "Babcock." Sometimes he say John, sometimes Babcock. He says, "Come on, Singer Without a Song." He goes, "Here, listen to this song." He wrote this song, "Sing Without a Song." And I'm like, "Wow, thank you very much, Harry." Songwriter extraordinaire. That was an honor for him to, that he liked the song. So he goes, "Go ahead." He goes, I'll sing the harmony part. You sing the lead. And so he counted it off. We're standing on the street in front of O'Donoghue's at the front door, and he's got two friends there. He goes, "One, living without you is like a singer without a song." And he's singing harmony, and that was it. We sang the one line. That's it. He goes, "See? Great song. Come on, let's go."
That's still awesome to
Yeah,
have
it was
someone like
awesome,
that sing
man.
your song.
I mean, you can't
That's-
make this stuff
No,
up.
that's very
I
cool.
mean, then we went in and had drinks. I'm buying.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was a great guy and a talented son of a gun. But he, you had to. It depended on what day it was and what night it was and how much he was partaking.
Yeah.
But most of the time, 2-3 drinks, he was cool. He'd tell the old stories of him and Lennon and the Beatles and his stuff. But sometimes you had a little too much, and that's when you got little. You didn't
mess with
it
it,
wasn't
yeah.
a happy time.
It's a good thing we don't know anything about that.
Oh yeah.
You can relate, right?
Just little, maybe.
Yeah. But
What time is it?
he was great.
Yeah.
And yeah.
He's just one of those guys that, like, when you look at his career, like over all the stuff he wrote, and he's just one of those guys that there's not a single album he put out where there's not something on it where you're like, wow, that's crazy. It's just pure genius. I mean, the guy was of another cloth, you know, as a songwriter. I mean, think about the album Nilsson Schmilsson. Just on that album alone, you've got "Without You," which is obviously we know
I got a
how
story
big
about that,
song
too.
is. But then you've got the song, what's it? "Jump Into the Fire," and that song ends up getting used in Goodfellas, the scene where Henry's running from the helicopters they're scoping out his drug game.
Oh yeah.
That's Harry Nilsson too.
Yeah.
And it's
His
and then
songs have been
lime and the
used in a
coke,
lot.
lime and the coconut. Like that's three very different
Genres
almost genres on that one album that have been since that. And we're talking about 50 years since that record came out. Have been used in countless things.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. His catalog's used a lot in film. A lot of movies, a lot of different genres of movies.
Everybody's talking at me.
Yeah.
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 That song's, man, that was his first hit.
That was his, he got a Grammy for that one.
Yeah.
But he didn't write the song though. I think Jim Webb wrote. I think.
Right. Yeah, he didn't write the song, but
Yeah.
that was his
But
first
he's and
single
that was
as an
in
artist.
Midnight Cowboy.
Yep.
Again, see film.
Yeah.
He one night at just to talk about film and Harry, in '85 or '86, I think it was '86 when we really were kind of hanging around with him. One night, it was one of those nights where he had been there a while,
Yeah.
and he came in and we saw he was down there, and it looks like he's in his little zone down there. Maybe, and my brother and I were like, maybe we better stay here. It was so we had to enter the bar, and Babcock, come down here. I'll buy you a drink. Oh boy, here we go. So plan on being here for a while.
Let's get it on.
It's already 1:30 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Because the last call is 4:00 in the morning up in New York, right?
Woo.
Yeah, it's late. So he's down there, and there's only a few people around. So we go over there, and he goes, "Let me give you some advice, Babcock." He says, "Get into film. Rock and roll is dead." That's what he said. And he goes, and my brother goes, "You're going to tell Ringo that rock and roll is dead?" Like that, kind of gave him a little challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was interesting because, he was kind of bummed out because like he was doing some stuff and he goes, "Well, me and Yoko, we're on VH1 now." Because VH1's for old people. Of course, he was only like 50, 51. But it was fun. I know what he was saying.
Yeah.
And I think he was, he was a little upset that he wasn't really doing productive stuff at that point.
Right.
But he had done enough for a lifetime. Let me tell you.
Oh man, and he died at such a poor time because just a few years later, and he would have been back around to this guy's on Storytellers now, and this guy's on CBS, special events and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Like he was getting to that enough time had passed where you get to that 20-year mark, and then all of a sudden everything comes back around in style again.
Yeah.
I mean, like right now it's 90s. Everything 90s is back. Like there's a show coming. I want to say it's in a couple of months here where it's like Bush. It was Bush, the Toadies, and Soul Asylum are playing
amazing.
together. And it's
wait a minute, Runaway Train.
Yeah, they're playing a huge venue, and I'm like those bands couldn't have filled that venue 2 years ago, but now 90s nostalgia is back around, and
well, enough time's gone by.
Yeah,
a long time.
I still can't believe that I seen one of the last concerts I went to was Earth Day Birthday like 3 or 4 years ago, and Bush, was the best, most energetic, best performance, and I'm telling you had some really good bands there, like a lot heavier bands.
Yeah.
But Bush, man, just Gavin Rossdale's energy and those songs, and everybody knows them. It was nice. It was one of the most energetic sets I've ever watched.
I got a theory on why that is, and I think you might be able to agree with me.
'Cause he's hot.
Well, the ladies love Gavin Rossdale, that's for sure. But I think that the guys, when they get to this age where you're in your 50s, you're having your, maybe, I guess you'd say, your second go-around. I think they appreciate it more than they did when they were 25.
Sure.
Because back then it was like we put a band together, within 2 years we're signed, and now we're playing on the Grammys and the MTV Music Awards, and we're selling out arenas. And at that age, you don't ever expect that's going to go away. So now when you get your second go-around where you're like, oh, man, it feels like 95 again, I think you just have a lot more appreciation of that.
What about maybe some like extra comfortability too? You're like, I've made it. I know everybody's showing up for this concert, so I'm gonna. But I guess it could go the other way too. You could be like, well, people are showing up, so I don't have to perform as good as I used to. Yeah, so
it's a different perspective.
Yeah,
But I think you do. I think you're right. You appreciate it a lot more, and you also survive whatever you getting through the years. And to be able to do that. So
yeah, because a lot of guys that came up with them did not survive it. They are not here today.
That's right. That's right. So you get a second shot at it. That's like,
oh yeah. Well, and speaking of that, I'll just get to this one because this is my second story I want you to tell, and then I want to get into your stuff. But your story about the day that you're recording at Abbey Road one day.
Yep.
And your brother comes to you and says, "Guess who's in Studio A?"
Joe Cocker.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
This story, I know you're going to love this story. So could you, that story, so that's another one, 25 years old, all the balls in the world to just walk up there and go, hey, let's go have dinner with Joe Cocker, right?
Yeah, well, the restaurant, the Abbey Road's got a lounge restaurant, a bar, basically it's a bar, but they have the food there and all that. And he... and
you can only go there if you're working at the studio, right? It's not open to the public.
No. Once in a while, they have public events there where they do things, in Studio 2, but for the most part, you got to be an artist there. And so we had just gotten in there. It was our first day. We booked the studio for 3 days, and again, I'm working on Out of the Blue, which is the first solo album I did in '85. And so we were only in there about an hour, and I was in the studio with my producer Bob Swade from New Jersey, who was there. We're setting up. We're getting we're using reel.
Reel tape,
24 track, 2-inch tape, 16 track. And we put it all on there. And we're getting the tapes lined up and all that. And my brother comes into the studio. We're in Beatles studio number 2. He walks in the control room. He says, "You won't believe who's working, who I just ran into in the main hallway." He goes, I said, "Who?" He said, "Joe Cocker." I said, "You kidding me?" I said, yeah. He said he was walking with a plate of food, and he bumped by me, and he goes, oh, sorry, man. And he looked. He said, I looked at him and said, it's Joe Cocker. And my brother's young. He's 19 years old at the time. I'm 26.
Yeah.
He's 7 years younger than me. But he loved classic rock and all that stuff because obviously he listened to stuff I was listening to as a kid. And so for the next 3 days, he was there working on an album called Cocker, which sheltered me. What was the song called? You leave your hat on.
That's that album.
Yeah, it's that album. And of course, he had a hit with that. And he was recording the vocals in studio. What was it?
That was Studio 1.
3.
Studio 3. Okay.
Yeah.
3 was the production. It was just the vocal studio.
Well,
right?
no. It was big enough to be able to have a band in two, but it was the smaller studio. Studio 1 is the big one where Star Wars was done and Raiders of the Lost Ark and all that stuff. It's where the big orchestras.
2 is the one that all the Beatles
stuff.
All the Beatles stuff.
Most of it.
Yeah.
They used all 3 studios, but that one's they did 90% of the stuff in there. And so he was in Studio 3, and so the door was shut, but we kind of go and we could hear we hear the track going, and we heard him singing. So then we got to meet him in the lounge.
Because if you're Joe Cocker, we all know Joe Cocker. What do you do when you get done with a long, hard day of singing?
Guinness.
You go down and have a Guinness.
That's right. And it was so funny, and so we met him down there, and he was really, really great guy, and so he wanted to know what we're doing, and I said, well, I'm working on my first solo album. He goes, oh, congratulations, and he says, so you're in the studio? What studio? Yeah, I said, in Studio 2. He goes, oh, Beatles studio, yeah. And so we got talking, and then because of Harry Nilsson, which we had already met in '85, we mentioned Harry, and I said, we live in Nyack, New York, where Harry Nilsson lives. He goes, oh, Harry, my buddy, how's he doing? Is he still drinking or something like that? So a little bit. And he goes, how's he doing? I said, it's good. And, Una is good, and the kids are getting big. He's got a big family,
Yeah.
So then we just started talking about it, and I asked him about Woodstock.
Yeah,
I wanted to. They got to remember now, Woodstock is over 50 years ago, but then, at that time, it was only 16 years.
Right.
About 16 years ago is nothing, right?
Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think 16 years ago, what was I doing? Oh, yeah, I was playing some club. Not 54 years,
right,
which it is now,
yeah.
As of this podcast.
Yeah.
20 years is within relative close kind of proximity.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he says, so I said, listen, I want to ask you something. I said, people ask you about Woodstock all the time. I said, if you don't mind. He goes, oh, and so we had Guinnesses too, so we're drinking, we're at the bar, it's like nobody around. It's during the daytime. And we're sitting there with him, and he's smoking, and he says, so I said, what was it like when you were in that helicopter coming over the site when they dropped you off there? I says, I understand you guys were at the Holiday Inn not too far away. I said, that's not far. That's in Middletown.
Yeah.
Middletown's where they were. And that Holiday Inn has been refurbished, but it's still there.
They had all the artists at, right? Because they flew them in from...
Everybody was at the Holiday Inn because there's no way to get in there. So what they did was they flew them by helicopter over to the site. They had a landing pad near, on the grass near the site. If you look at some of the pictures of the video, you see, where they landed. And he said, yeah. He said, when I was coming over there, they told me there was going to be about 50 to 60,000 there. That's what they were planning on.
Yeah.
He said. And as they were going, he said, as I was going across, I looked at the window, and it looked like it was 1 million people down there. And he said, well, I said, well, what did you think about that? How did you feel? He said, I thought, wow, this is going to be a great party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's better than that? Who was in the helicopter with him?
It was, he said, Grace Slick and Janis Joplin.
Oh, wow. I still like the idea that this guy's like, I was recording my first album in the Beatles studio.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
You recorded your first song in my closet. Well,
hey!
Right here. I recorded my first song right here in this chair.
Very quickly becoming very famous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one and only.
Oh, boy.
Everybody said that was enough.
Yeah, and it's like over time. Well, Matthew Street is, and I don't. Anytime somebody says this, I don't want you to think like I don't like your new stuff because I like all your stuff. But Matthew Street's your best album. I think that's
what?
What?
It's being released for its 30th anniversary next year.
Oh wow, really?
Yep. And
yeah,
I'm going to be remixing the title track with a new 25 remix.
Oh wow.
Okay, which I haven't. The original album was done in '95.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a bonus track, and the cover's going to be reshot again.
Oh wow.
We're going to be reshooting it.
So you're going to reshoot it, going to the same.
We're going to go to Liverpool. We're going to Liverpool. My wife and I, Elena, and
wow.
We're going to England, and we're going to go by Abbey Road, and we're going to go to Liverpool.
Yeah.
And we're going to reshoot the cover, so it's an updated cover from on Matthew Street.
Oh
yeah,
wow,
which is going to be really cool.
If you want for free, I will scream remix right before the song starts.
That's perfect.
Remix.
All the hip hop songs. They go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remix. Yeah.
You'll be the first one to have a copy of it, so you can do that.
Excellent.
But
It'd be an honor.
when you record at Matthew Street, so think about that. So he goes back to Abbey Road. He's making this album, Matthew Street. At the time, this is when the Beatles anthology is being remixed and mastered. So he's there doing his record. George Martin's there with all the Beatles tapes, taking those out of the vault. They're remixing the Beatles stuff while he's making his record, right? So all in the same building. This is when this is happening, right?
Yeah, they were in the penthouse studios on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
And I was in studio 2.
Yeah. So then you come down at finish day, come down for a lunch break or whatever.
Yeah, I was down. I was on my own on that one. My brother wasn't on that trip.
Yeah.
But it was the tail end of Matthew. Actually, Matthew Street was already done already.
Okay.
It was already released. It was in the HMV stores all over England.
Okay.
So I had a release over there with that album. But I was working on the next album.
Okay.
And I'm at the bar there, and with one of the guys that I knew for a few years, one of the engineers, and in walks George Martin. And there he is. George Martin coming in. I didn't know, he was there, whatever. I didn't know what was going on. And he comes in, he picks up a tray of food, and I'm sitting at the bar, and I said, "Oh, cool, George Martin." And I had a book, The Making of Sgt. Pepper, which I bought to read on the plane. So I said, well, maybe I'll get him to sign it. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then I sitting there drinking with Guinness with my friend here, and then I kind of look over and see tracking him, look at him, see where he's going. And when he sits down, about 15 feet away, he's sitting down with Paul McCartney.
Forgive my ignorance. George Martin is
He's
their producer.
Their producer.
Okay,
Yeah.
I figured from the story.
Yeah,
but I like
he
at least
produced
people know.
All the Beatle records.
All this.
Okay.
Well, except for the Phil Spector "Let It Be."
Well,
but
he initially did the basic, did some of it, right?
Yeah.
And then Phil came in and did additional work on it.
But they came back and they gave you the George Martin version with the naked sessions,
Right.
That's what George Martin
Right.
did.
And then the final album they did, Abbey Road, George Martin got together with them. They worked as they did it originally, together.
Did he
collectively.
just pretty much do Beatles, or did he do other bands?
Oh, he did
too?
everybody.
A lot of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, he did a lot.
He
of
was
stuff.
he was a very prominent
Did
producer
America.
but in UK he was everybody's everybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he had his own studio too. He had Air Studios in London. He left Abbey Road as a staff producer in 1965 to start his own studio, Air, which is still around today.
Yeah.
He mixed and recorded America, Tin Man. That's him. Tin Man. The doodle-doo-doodle-doo.
David Bowie. Wasn't David Bowie in Tin Man?
No, the song Tin Man.
Oh, the song Tin Man. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, the piano solo on it. That's
Yeah.
George Martin playing on the record.
Oh, really? I didn't
Yeah.
know he played. I didn't know he
Yeah,
played
he's
on.
on. He produced it, and it's the big hit Tin Man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, America. Very
That's
cool.
crazy.
And that was they were very tight friends with Nilsson.
That when you look at that scene, it's like a lot like with any like musical friends group. We have I think wasn't Sid Barrett hanging out at the studio at one point? Like he came through when the Beatles were recording. I think it was
The White
Album.
Yeah.
Sid Barrett, which you may
Oh, I
remember.
know Sid Barrett.
Yeah, Sid Barrett from Pink Floyd, where
yeah.
They came in.
Yeah, giant acid
Yeah.
trip and ends
Yeah.
up basically getting booted out of the band, but he
Yeah.
was still around. Sid Barrett and the Madcap Laughs was his band, but he would come in, hang out. The Monkees would be in the engineering studio while the Beatles are recording. Like they just all their friends would just come through and hang out. I think at one point, like Peter Fonda is there in the studio. Like it just
There was a
turned
lot
into
of-
like their clubhouse. You know?
Yeah, they had guests come in.
Yeah, and then
Mick Jagger sang on background vocals on "Baby You're a Rich Man,"
that's crazy.
and that wasn't at
Wow.
Abbey Road. That track was recorded at Trident.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sometimes they went over there because they had a new 8-track machine.
Yeah.
And
Well, at that time though, like Dark Side of the Moon was recorded at Abbey Road. That was in Studio
Studio 2. The
2.
whole thing. Yep.
Oh, okay, same Studio 2.
Yep.
You had all of this stuff that was going on around there, and everybody was just, what a crazy time to think. You got a room full of people who will go on to be Rock and Roll Hall of Famers and considered geniuses.
Yeah.
Now here's the question: since you were there and around all this, did everybody know that? You know what I mean? Like did was the feeling like, oh yeah, we're all badasses, or was it just kind of like some friends hanging out, and then it ended up being like, oh wow, we're the best?
Yeah, no, they're just very humble people, actually.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
It's not like that,
Yeah.
I mean, and case in point is McCartney. When I met him at what
At
you're asking
Abbey
about.
Road,
Yeah, that moment, and he wanted to know what I was doing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm the legend.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Very humble people.
So he
And
asked
if
you
anybody
about your
should have an
record
ego,
number?
it should be that guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, if you're
Yeah.
a Beatle.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of what Rick Derringer told me. I told you about the thing
What's
with Rick
that?
Derringer. Well, I opened up for Rick Derringer a couple years ago, and
Yeah.
I've known him for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, what was it like, playing with the All-Star Band,
Yeah.
And he said, it was great. I love playing. And he said, the best thing in my life was to play with Paul and Ringo at Radio City Music Hall.
Oh wow.
He says, I got to play with the rhythm section of the Beatles playing guitar. He said, that's, he said, I wouldn't be here if it were like most of us that grew up listening to them. We wouldn't be here doing what we do if it wasn't for those guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The influence is undeniable.
Well, and the change in music, what I love about their story is, so they started out with the suits and ties. They were playing the 50s style inspired rock and roll stuff, but then my favorite time period is once they hit Rubber Soul, and you're like, something's happening. This is a little bit different. Then
it's a lot different.
Magical Mystery Tour to Sgt. Pepper's to White Album. You're like, this is crazy.
Yeah, well, they're the only.
It
the
doesn't
most
resemble.
progressive-
Yeah.
one of the most progressive bands of ever. Probably could
And
be the.
That's what I thought was great about it. Was going that whole psychedelic route and bringing in the just instruments, strange instruments, and that they influenced Brian Wilson on Pet Sounds. Where you remember that when he was making the album Smile, he was bringing buckets of burning wood from a house fire nearby
With the
into the
fireman's hat.
studio with the fireman's hat on,
Yeah.
recording a song because he was trying to
try
get
anything.
the vibe
Right.
into the studio.
The whole thing with
The sound of smoke.
the sound of smoke. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, that has a certain timbre to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
So
It fills the room.
that's funny. Yeah. Well, Brian, he was a genius, right? So geniuses tend to be a little quirky.
Well, that's the reason why that word tortured is so often put before the word genius.
Yeah.
A tortured genius.
Like-
Eccentric.
he couldn't understand why no one else got it.
Like Todd Rundgren, the tortured artist effect.
Yes.
Smell the rhythm.
Yeah.
But they were, what they did is unprecedented. Nobody in 8 years would make a body of work like that.
Right.
That is so progressive. Not only progressive songwriting wise or production wise, but they never wanted to repeat themselves. And if you listen to every Beatle album, is different.
Yeah.
There's no, you can't tell me Sgt. Pepper's anything like the White Album, and you're only talking about a year apart.
Yeah.
They wanted to progress and change things. They didn't want to repeat themselves, and that's something that's very difficult to do as an artist, because you tend to get into. I mean, we're all guilty of kind of getting into a niche, genre. The Beatles are a genre of their own. I think most people would agree with that.
Yeah.
They're not different. They have a thing that they did. That was just amazing. And it influenced everybody.
In that at that time, so they had stopped playing live in '66. So all they were doing was recording and making new records.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
They were literally sitting in, or they were coming to work and clocking in every day, like the rest of us. But they were focusing on working on this new album, putting the album out, and start the next one immediately.
Yeah.
Like they weren't touring, they weren't playing,
and that was
shows
unheard
anywhere.
of. Nobody didn't tour.
No, yeah.
You know, you just
Right.
didn't. Except Nilsson.
Yeah, Nilsson never toured.
Nilsson
Yeah.
never toured.
Never.
Never. Nope. He said, I refuse. I don't like. He didn't like to play live.
Yeah.
He had a
Huh.
thing about going on stage and all that, and he didn't have to. He had #1 records, and
Yeah.
he's one of the only artists
Yeah.
of the '70s that didn't tour.
Yeah.
Well, that even is a little bit more of a tip of the cap.
Yeah.
He had
Yeah.
#1 stuff and didn't even bother touring.
Didn't have
That's,
to. Didn't have to, yeah.
that's pretty gangster.
And of course, it is gangster. And here's the thing: RCA was always on him on it. Because what do you mean? Because
Oh, they were missing on tons of money.
even today in 2024, touring is the promotion vehicle of all things. So
Yep.
that's what you have. You have to tour to promote the record. That's
Yeah.
what it is. It's,
Oh, yeah.
That part has not changed.
There's
But
a
not-
lot that's
but-
changed, but not that.
But not that. Right. But he said, I don't do that. And they were like, what do you mean?
So gay.
What do you mean? I don't do that. I don't want to. I don't do that. You know. And that was it.
Yeah.
And
Here's
they
another
never-
here's another #1 album. Shut up.
Yeah. You know what was one here? One more
Yeah.
Nilsson thing
Yeah.
that I never told you before.
Okay.
That I found out about.
Yeah.
I think it was in 1975 or 76.
Yeah.
Hey, somebody's calling for me.
It's probably an alarm from my mom's pills.
Take a message. Take a message. So he says, John Lennon's contract
Yeah.
with Capitol Records as a solo artist was about to expire in 1975, I think
Mhm.
it was. And so John was going to work on an album called Pussycats, which was a Nilsson album that he produced. John Lennon produced
Fritz
it.
has the first pressing of that on vinyl.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
something. It's great. And so Lennon was, Harry wanted John to produce him, and John had just done Walls and Bridges in '74. So his contract was going to end with Capitol, and so John Lennon and I'm sorry, not John Lennon's, Harry's
contract, yeah.
Okay, was going to end with RCA in 75, I think
Yeah.
it was. Okay, so he's talked John into going into the president of RCA Records. Just walk in with me, he says. And so he wanted to renegotiate his contract. And they knew that Lennon's contract with Capitol Records was going to be up, it's going to be expire
Yeah.
sometime within that year. So he goes in, Lennon goes in, didn't say a word, didn't say hello, nothing. Walked in with him. They didn't know he was coming in. The guy's sitting there, and Harry sits down, and he goes, well, I'm here to talk about the contract and blah, blah, blah. Okay, the guy's sitting there looking, and there's John Lennon. And he said, not happy with the percentages on this thing. And Harry's so, he's from Brooklyn. Right?
You bring John Lennon with you.
Yeah, and the guy said, what do you want, Harry? He says, well, I would like to have this.
Because you're saying, inferring basically that Lennon might not renew
That's
if they
right.
don't
Yeah.
make Larry
Yeah.
Harry happy
Hey,
as
do
well.
you know my friend?
Right. Have you heard of this guy?
I don't think he's happy either.
He's pretty talented,
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew he had a contract renewal coming up as well.
Yeah, he had a group in the '60s that was really big. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden, he got what he wanted.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
and that's true. That's a true story.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
That's awesome.
However, my favorite story of Harry and John is the one where he convinced John that the Smothers Brothers wanted to be heckled.
That's right.
You know about the yo-yo?
Well, after a couple of Brandy Alexanders, it wasn't too hard to do.
Yeah, Harry
And they started
convinced
throwing coasters at him.
Harry convinced
Oh, my
John
Lord.
Lennon, no, it's part of the show. They love it. And
Yeah.
so they heckled the Smothers
Yeah,
Brothers
and then they
until
got thrown out.
got thrown out of the place. That was his lost weekend, they called it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it was
actually,
more
May
like
Pang-
a
May
year,
Pang
right?
has got it. What's that?
It was more like a year, wasn't it? How long was it?
He was out there with May Pang, his girlfriend, for over a year and a half.
Yeah.
It was about 2 years, yeah. I
yeah.
think it was a year and a half. I think.
Yeah.
But that was another night with Nilsson,
Yeah.
and I know what it's like.
Another
I had
night with
I had the
Nelson.
pleasure and the privilege.
Well, you played a song for me one time. When me and Fritz were doing Mooncast from Mars, he came on. He's like, "Oh, you're not gonna believe what I found." So they were hanging out one night. They had been at the bar till closing time. Left the bar and went back to Harry's place. They're in his basement, and Harry says, "Oh, my son's birthday's tomorrow." So he sets the mics up, and they record a birthday song for his son in the basement. And he found the tape of it. It's called "Happy Bow Day," is what he called it.
That's
Yeah, it was
amazing.
just him and
his kid was
Harry.
going to turn 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't on that. That was my
Oh, it was
brother.
your brother Ryan.
Yeah.
Right, that's right.
Right, yeah.
Ryerson. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 2:00 in the morning after a night out at OD's, and he had a little 4-track thing, and I guess my brother came back with the next day and said, "Listen, I got to play you something," because it's me, Drew, it's this guy. I can't remember his last name. I'm sorry if he's out there, but Drew from Liverpool.
Yeah.
A band called Liverpool that played at all the Beatle conventions. He was very tight friends with Harry, and he was staying at Harry's house with Una and the kids.
Yeah.
And so they were out. I remember the night. I remember seeing him there because he was there for a couple of days, Drew. And then so one night I was out gigging, and then my brother was down there with him, and he says, "Let's go back to the house. I want to record something." And my brother's like, "Oh my, Harry Nilsson's coming out of retirement." So they went back there, and he made this bo hey bo day,
yeah,
bo day, and then he made this thing on the spot. And my brother played a little keyboard thing, and Drew played the basic keyboard thing, and it sounds like a Nilsson song.
Yeah.
You know, it's got the do 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 do. You like it.
Yeah, happy bo day.
Yeah, it's funny, and it's actually got bootlegged somehow. My brother didn't do it, but somebody got. Harry must have gave the tape out to somebody else too.
Yeah,
but it's out now on the market. You can see it on YouTube. It's Happy Bo Day.
And it sounds like his tongue-in-cheek like humor where he goes, "Remember when you were 9? That was so long ago. You're 10 now."
He goes. Your hair is going to change, and your mind is going to change.
Yeah.
I like the idea too. Probably like every other kid, he probably listened to it once and was like, "Eh."
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
probably.
Dad's a weird.
Yeah, whatever. Dad's making music
talking
again.
about Bo.
Yeah.
My brother told me this. He said, "You know what? I'd heard about Harry and how he tipped people, right? So one day, Bo, 10-year-old, Happy Bo Day, he says, Dad had a big roll of cash, right?
Yeah.
He always had a big roll of cash before he'd go out, and he'd say, Dad, why do you have all that money like that rolled up with the thing around it, And he said, these are $100 bills. He says, when somebody does, when you want good service, I give them one of these. Generous tipper.
Oh yeah.
And that goes to show you, this is a guy that hadn't had a record out in years to how much, how well off he was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And again, you go back to what we talked about earlier, licensing for the songs. Even in his lifetime, the songs were going out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you make a lot of residuals on films and stuff like that. That's why he said to me, get into film. He was right. He was right. Soundtrack music and stuff like that, which I've done stuff like that. But
sure.
Anybody out there wants some soundtrack music? I got a whole album of instrumentals, baby. Just give me a call. Yeah. Colder.
I mean, I just can't imagine that scene in Goodfellas being any other song like that. It would be a different scene without that song.
Yeah, absolutely.
When that bass line's it makes the mood for the whole scene.
Yeah, well placed.
Crazy. So let's do this. Do you want to let's take a quick break, a short break, and then we'll do
Paul is all
story, and we'll do the story about your show coming up.
Well,
okay.
What?
That's why we
Solo
have to break.
Red Cup.
But you know what I'm gonna do? Let's do this.
Required break.
I'm gonna play the song that we just talked about, and that's what we're gonna go to break with.
Nice.
Cool.
Because so you mentioned Harry, right?
Yeah.
And so you talked about how Harry was a fan, and what I like is Harry is a songwriter. So he would hear one line, or he would hear something that made him that drew him in, that made him want to listen to the song, and so Singer Without a Song.
Yeah.
What I thought was funny is you said what he liked about that song was just that line where he said, "Oh, a singer without a song." The idea of a singer not having a song.
Yeah,
it
it appealed to him. But I remember him telling me he really liked the production. He liked the horns on it, and I was like, well, what about the rest of the album? But he played it in he had an '86 Toyota van that he had, one of his many cars besides his Mercedes. And he said, I play this all the time. He says, it's a good record. And that's why I was very proud of that he.
You talking about the
liked my
cool
record.
Toyota van that kind of looks almost like a DeLorean if it was made into a
That's
minivan?
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
86.
Those are neat.
Yeah.
So this is John Babcock from 1985 with Singer Without a Song. There's a lot of swag to that.
Oh, very.
When you got the brass there.
It's groovy.
Yeah.
Very 80s.
very smooth.
Man, when I hear these recordings of you that long ago, it's crazy how high your voice was back then. Man, you can get up there, huh?
I still try.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Pop Culture Radio.
Want to open up a drive-through liquor store that doubles as a notary public and dry cleaner? That's all you, my sons and daughters of liberty. Here at Badass Hangry Eagle Brewery, we've been bottling up freedom for over 6 years, and we encourage every American to embrace their God-given freedom with their lips. And just in time for this crucial election year, be sure to look out for our Devil's Advocate series of handcrafted beauties. We'll have you playing both sides of the fence in no time with our party-specific fun facts of corruption printed on every bottle. Our Build-A-Wall VIP beer will infuriate your liberal friends, and our cover-up coffee porter will alienate your conservative ones. Because what's more American than becoming a multimillionaire off a drunken idea for an app that tells you what kind of pizza matches your suit? Drinking a Badass Hangry Eagle? That's what. America. Badass Hangry Eagle Brewery. America AF.
Badass Hangry Eagle Brewery!
Badass Hangry Eagle Brewery. America AF.
In this town, used to be you didn't have to lock your doors at night. Nowadays, you can't even leave a magnet on your car. I've seen the devil in a man's eye before. Have you or anyone you know been scarred by magnet theft?
Well, you know, I sure wish there was somebody we could trust, you see.
Well, then you called the right number. The safe recovery of your magnet gets my ticker thumping. I'm Magnet P.I., and I won't sleep until you can.
Baseball. Apple pie. Your grandmother's fried chicken. These are great institutions of the American dream. And let us not forget another icon of the greatest country on earth, a German-style Mexican imitation lager. Now that's America. Here at Badass Hangry Eagle Brewery, we've been bottling up freedom for over 6 years, and we encourage every American to embrace their God-given freedom with their lips. Want to work as a pedicab driver and play Pokemon Go all day while enjoying one of our Imperial Cuck Stouts? The Badass Hangry Eagle says, "You do you, brah brah." Literally, we trained one. It says that. America. Badass Hangry Eagle Brewery. America AF.
Badass Hangry Eagle Brewery!
This is not a political ad. If it were a political ad, you would know, because it would begin with dark and somber music as I talk about the person I don't want you to vote for, like this. Also, I would drop my voice a little to sound more ominous as I tell you things about the candidate that are designed to scare you about the future if they were elected. Facts are not important here because I'm just trying to manipulate your feelings. But I don't want to end there. Now I want to make you feel good. So we'll switch to more upbeat music here, as I now tell you the person for whom I want you to vote for. Again, facts are not important here. We will just say things like our candidate will provide better schools, and lower taxes, and puppies and kittens for all. Finally, if this were a political ad, you would hear a statement about who is paying for this, like a political action committee, which raises millions of dollars from the very wealthy with hopes of getting you to vote for the candidate that they think will benefit them the most. The Phillips File is responsible for the content of this ad about the making of a political ad.
The war on vending machines is hitting closer to home. It's hitting the workplace. Salutations! My name is Dr. Patience McCracknuts, PhD. Reap the benefits of healthy living with Dr. McCracknuts' line of tasty vending comestibles. And because Dr. McCracknuts knows a thing or two about those mid-afternoon doldrums and lethargy, we have started dispersing vitamin B12 syringes in all of our vending machines. Lift your spirits and carry on, ladies and gents. Your hunger just met its worst nightmare. Dr. McCracknuts.
Coming to a vending machine near you!
After I got food poisoning from hamburger paste and McFrugals, attorney Crab Newberg was able to recover $6,900 for me. Thanks, Mr. Newberg.
You're welcome, Cinnamon. I was honored to recover $6,900 for Cinnamon after her severe food poisoning, and I'd be willing to help you too. I've graduated from an accredited law school and passed an intensive examination in the state of Florida. If you've been given a raw deal from food paste, simply go to askthecrab.com. With Crab Newberg, you've got a case.
Take things to a new level upon Wii with the first annual French Riviera Games. Events include
cigarette smoking, depressing filmmaking, scouting, esoteric performance art, and mustache, fun for the whole family.
We will have disinterested mimes that will challenge your child's sense of existential security.
And a bounce house.
A special appearance by over 50 Serge Gainsbourg impersonators.
And Jean Reno.
Check out our Midway games and events. And
Baguettes.
The French Riviera Games.
Where the wine flows like the river Rhone.
Coming to an empty field near you.
I'm Sergeant Barkus Clayton. In the 2 decades of my professional career in Central Florida, nothing has twisted up my gut more than the cowards who've taken the baby swans from Lake Eola. The poor mother goose calls day and night for her babies, and now she's calling me. The so-called signet caper is nothing more than a depraved, hollow individual seeking out the most innocent life form to torment and terrorize. I vow to track these suspects down using force if I must. If you're the one who did this heinous crime, me and the crime ender's gonna find you. Only a jackass would do something that stupid. Or maybe you don't have a brain in that ugly head of yours. If that's the case, I can't help you. But I will find you. And maybe, if you turn yourself in, I'll go easy on you. But rest assured, Central Florida, Sergeant Barkis Clayton will be vigilant, ever present, gun in hand and law on my side. I will not lose this fight. And you can take that to the bank of Lake Eola.
Sunday. We bring you the first politically correct monster truck rally. Unless, of course, you find that to be inconvenient. In which case, we'll have a matinee on Tuesday. Featuring such non-offensive sports vehicles as appropriately sized foot, mild-mannered canine, funeral service worker, and son of funeral service worker, who, although slightly younger, still gets paid a living wage. And current DC Truck Rally champion, I'm okay with our country having a black president. Price admission includes the entire seat, but you'll only need the edge. Sunday. Try to respect the wishes of our neighbors and keep the noise down. Tonight at 9 on Orlando's Super TV 3. She's a nun with a secret past.
I must confess, I've never ever taken confession, never.
He's a 12-year-old genius who plays by his own rules.
Oh, DDoS hack of NORAD? Child's play. First, soccer practice.
Together, they are Penguin and the Rookie.
It's never gonna work, Rookie.
That's what my mom said about birth control.
Two paths, one journey, where salvation and puberty collide.
Defuse the bomb already, honey. I can still catch happy hour.
Chill out, you old bird. I have 15 seconds and 10 are for boobies.
Start the habit. Penguin and the Rookie on Orlando's Super TV 3. Ginkgo Kielbasa, from the people who brought you Energy Brat, comes a taste you'll never forget.
Ginkgo Kielbasa.
The first time you met the love of your life and the smell of the air. It's a Meat Tube memory miracle.
Ginkgo Kielbasa.
Overcoming the rival team, and the first time you won the game. Listen to that crowd.
Ginkgo Kielbasa.
The first time you couldn't pay rent, and the taste of delicious ramen noodles.
Ginkgo Kielbasa, the meat you'll remember. Orlando's Super TV 3 presents a real-world comedy filmed in front of a live studio audience. Locker Room Talk Live. Let's see what the boys get themselves into this week.
Make sure there's plenty of towels in there for when the racquete ball game is over with.
We gotta mop the shower real good this week. I know they go and pee in there.
That's not pee, though.
They're not pee, though?
Hey, I just checked my 401k on the way down here. I'm rolling in it, Bobby. I bet you'll let me grab it by the p***, huh? Yowza! Yeah. You should be so lucky I get my hands on your mother's you son of a bitch.
Holy moly.
You goddamn You have offended me, sir.
Hey, I'll stuff you back in there like a goddamn bowling ball.
Oh, yeah? Well, your mother has the size of her and if you don't like it, you can take it and shove it way up your... Stop touching him.
I'm the stork, your mother. I'm the stork.
Oh, they're horsing around for real. Oh.
Tune in at 8 to see what people are willing to accept this week. Locker Room Talk, tonight at 8, only on Orlando's Super TV 3.
You fellow wenches, are you looking for a buccaneer to bed or a first mate to swab your poop deck? Well, no one should have to face scurvy alone. Visit piratesonly.com. Think of the pirate possibilities, such as Clamdigger 69.
I'm Clamdigger 69. I have plenty of toys and eccentric things in Davy Jones's locker, if you know what I mean. Again, that's Clamdigger 69.
But let's not forget about Make My Roger Jolly.
I'm Make My Roger Jolly. Allow me to be the first one to truly discover your booty. I'm Make My Roger Jolly.
Pirate 542.
Arr, arr, arr.
And Cabin Swain too.
Hey, don't forget about me. I'm Cabin Swain too. You can come and frolic around my mizzenmast. I'm Cabin Swain too.
Find your buried treasure at piratesonly.com, where X marks the spot.
Yesterday's realities or today's fantasies. Hey, I'm Hetty Violet, caretaker of Astor Farms, Florida's newest and oldest rentable bed and breakfast. Astor Farms hasn't been updated nor upgraded since its construction in 1845. With no running water or power, you'll be able to live like your ancestors did, but on today's dime. If these testimonials don't sway you, nothing will.
June 12th, 2014. My wits are failing me. I feel a constant hunger for the unattainable, and a thirst that cannot be quenched. I feel a presence watching me in the darkness. A creature, a trapped soul, somehow dodging the light of this flickering candle. By sunrise, I fear my life. Maybe an extreme danger.
How about this fine how do you do?
April 4th, 2016. The rations of hardtack are too damn stale. Cracked my front teeth in great pain. Salt pork for lunch tasted rotten. Too much salt. I told that woman not to heavy-hand the salt, but she did just to spite me. Oh God, is she trying to kill me?
Live yesterday's life today at Astor Farms. We'll get the bedroll ready for you.
Education can be the most important decision of your life. So why not invest your life savings on one of the best? Altamont College. Welcome home. This above-average college will help you decide if college is your calling. Whether you're a doctor or physician, a teacher or librarian, a farmhand or otherwise, Altamont College, let us wow you with promises.
If you want to live your best life, you need to call me, Jake Berman. My life revolves around sports, but maybe yours doesn't. That's why I'm introducing the Jake Berman Betterment Program. Let's hear from a few satisfied customers.
He's changed my life. His classes, they mean everything to me.
Excuse me,
You
sorry.
need something?
Cheryl, I'm going to need those reports on my desk that we talked about by the 5...
Do you see my lips move? I am talking to
I'm sorry, I
a
didn't realize
friend.
that you were talking to
Can
someone.
you see I'm talking to someone?
Well, don't take my word for it.
Jake's teachings really helped me process the death of my grandfather.
Here we are to honor this man who loved immensely, who held tightly, who caressed.
Hey,
gently.
come on! Is this a wake or a wake me up? Wrap it up, buddy! Come on! I'm Jake Berman, and the next time you wake up, you'll be that guy. Call 415-239-878-61515. I want you to live your best life. Call 415-239-878-61515. Then pound 10. I'm Jake Berman.
The Blackwell Building, Wednesday, 9:15 a.m.
Why are you standing so close to the printer?
The paper is so warm when it comes out.
Oh, thank God. I thought I was the only one.
Oh, this place is freezing all the time.
I know, right?
So I'm not the only one?
Ladies, if you have time to be standing around, you certainly have time to be working. Don't you have anything you could be doing right now?
Yeah, like maybe have a core temperature of more than 65 degrees.
It's so cold. I can't type.
I don't know. It seems fine to me. I just get back to work. That's all I want.
I can't.
Someone needs to take charge around here.
Someone needs to light a fire in this bitch. Give me the papers, Alice.
Wait, what?
Men are always telling women what they can and can't do with their bodies. Now they have a stranglehold on the AC.
Hold on. The thermostat is right over there. Literally, I can see it from here. It's 20 feet away. I have no control over that.
Oh,
Oh, right. It's always somebody else, never you, Harold.
Smash the windows!
You guys realize this is a felony, right?
My nipples could cut diamonds, Harold. Diamonds.
Like, you're going to jail, or at least there's a hefty fine.
Cold as hell, and I'm not gonna take it anymore!
Did you know male-controlled thermostats are the #1 leading cause of workplace violence? Don't be Harold. Always keep your thermostat set to 82 degrees. It's the only way to stay safe.
Now, from Future Entertech comes the latest killer app, Sicker, taking care of your tomorrow, today. Call in sick while avoiding accountability.
I couldn't.
Years roll by, seasons change. Time has its way, it likes to rearrange. Girl, I thank the Lord, it's still the same. We had some days we thought we never get through. Nights together making up to do. I wanna tell you, gotta make it clear. 'Cause life without you, it never will do. And it's true, true. I'm still crazy about you. Crazy about you. Yes, it's true,
Welcome back to Pop Culture Radio. So this is the song True, Crazy About You from Matthew Street by John Babcock. So that crazy to think that's 30 years old.
Yeah. Next year it'll be 30th anniversary coming up.
That's so nuts.
Going to re-release the album with new artwork and a remix of one or two of the songs.
Yeah, and I don't have to ask you this because I know you've been through this a lot longer ago than I started going through it. But I had a moment this weekend where this weekend was WrestleMania weekend, and I know you being a New York guy, you remember the Madison Square Garden days and WrestleMania and all that stuff back then. Well, this year was WrestleMania 40.
Woo! Hello.
40. You remember when WrestleMania 1 was closed circuit and you had to go to theaters to watch it?
Yeah.
Now it's WrestleMania 40. It's on the Peacock app. I'm watching it out here on television. And also, this is something that the first time ever in the history of WWE, a member of the Rhodes family is the World Heavyweight Champion.
Whoa.
Dusty Rhodes. Oh, shit. Hang on. There you go.
So he did
He
get
did.
it?
He won. He
I
won
didn't
it
see
on
the second
He
night.
won it on Sunday night in grand fashion. Cody Rhodes, the son of Dusty Rhodes, is now the WWE champion. And
Keep it in the family. Right?
Dusty never won that title. Dusty was NWA champion and all these
Yeah.
other things, but whenever he was doing WWE, they made a circus clown out of him, and he never won anything.
Wow.
And now Cody is the champ. And I'm watching that, and 30 years ago was when the guy I grew up with was Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, my dad's friend. He had the ladder match with Shawn Michaels at Madison Square Garden in 1994 and won the Intercontinental Championship. That was 30 years ago. And I'm like, man, I remember, like, I'm sure there's going to get to a point where I'm going to go, wow, that was 40 years ago? That was 50 years ago? But to me, it's just crazy having those, like, moments as you're getting older to go, that just doesn't seem
No, it
that
doesn't seem
long
way.
ago.
Right. Well,
You know?
that's like my experience of going to Abbey Road all those years. It's like sometimes, I don't know. I've had other people say it to me. They go through the same experience. Sometimes you'll be talking about something, from 40 years ago or 30 years ago, and sometimes you'll say it's 20 years ago, and then you realize, oh no, that's right, it's 30. I mean, because it doesn't seem that long.
It's funny because
it's
the
a
way
funny thing.
I'm way more ingrained in like video games, honestly, than I am in music. So, and that, video games and CG and stuff like that is progressing even faster. So for me, like they just did a re-release of a game that I felt like came out, forever ago, and I, looked it up. Oh, when did that release? And it was like 2015, and it feels like it's 20 years ago.
Oh yeah,
because everything progresses so fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that can happen too.
Yeah, that's I mean, all of entertainment is strange that way because, think about some of the records that we listened to when we were kids and like growing up. Like, the car, my everyday driver is a 1992 Pontiac Bonneville. It's got 70,000 miles on it. This thing was garage kept, all that stuff. So I drive it to work. And the kids that I work in the car business, kids that work with me, they come up and they're like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And I'm like, "It's just a 92 Bonneville, not that big a deal."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, can I check it?" They're looking inside of it and everything.
It's
And
not
then
a 67 Mustang for crying out loud.
But
I mean,
it is. But it is.
But it is to them.
Yeah.
It is to them, not to us.
Right.
Right.
Because when I was
Isn't
their
that
age,
funny?
when I was their
Yeah.
age, if somebody had driven a 32-year-old car to work, it would have been a 1964 something.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
Got a blue
And that's-
tag on it.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah. It had the vintage tag on it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's just one of those things to me that's just
I know
crazy.
that happens too with me. I'll go, it's just an old car. No, it isn't. Not
I
to
was
them.
doing something with it in the driveway one day when I was having an event here, or having a podcast or something here, and Sabrina and Liz were here, and they were 2 years old when that car was built.
Yeah, they're like, "Where's your horses?"
Now that makes you feel old.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, she was like, "Yeah, I was 2 when that car was built," and I'm like, "Wow, that's just crazy."
The only thing worse than that is I wasn't born yet.
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't born then. And my answer to that is, well, it's not my fault. You're too young.
I still one of my favorite stories that my buddy told me that's in the same vein is a Spanish guy, and they all went to Puerto Rico or Costa Rica for a family vacation, and he said he brought his boom box and he brought his album thing with all this. This was probably in like 2005, something like that. When did the iPod come out?
Around that time, 06,
something like
yeah.
that. So he carries all this stuff down to the beach, and his younger cousins or whatever look at it. He's like, "Hey man, I brought all them," and they just look at me and go, "We don't use those anymore." What is that compact disc you got there?
Well, and so to take it a step further, like I collect vinyl. I have a lot of vinyl. I like listening to old records and stuff like. In fact, all of the vinyl that Bushy owns is stuff that was gifted to him by guests since he's joined this program.
One day I'll get a player and actually be able to listen.
For now, you just look at the album covers.
Yeah, no, it's like I'm one of these people that I don't like even in my own homes and everything. I've never had like wall art. Everybody, and they walk in, they're like, "You realize you have nothing on your walls?" I'm like, "No, I didn't until you said something." Like it doesn't mean anything to me. But since I started getting these albums and things that people are giving me, I've even got the cassette tape for Florida Slang.
Well, that's the other thing.
Fritz gave me.
Listen, cassette tapes.
Oh yeah.
What's going on with that?
It's a huge.
Are you kidding me? These kids are spending $12, $13 for a cassette tape. I see you could give them away about 5 years ago.
Yeah, well,
but that's nostalgia to them. Is what it is. Yeah.
Fritz's first solo album is called The Real Fritz. He put it out online. It's streaming online and exclusively as a cassette tape that you could buy.
And Ringo just did it too.
Ringo did,
Yeah,
really?
Ringo did. Yeah. Oh yeah, he did it last year. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He put out available. On downloads and cassette.
See,
I'm
now
like,
that's
who's buying a
interesting to me.
cassette?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, so vinyl, there's also, it's not just nostalgia. Like, it has a particular sound.
Oh, no,
you know what I mean?
it's
It's got a
just-
very healthy sound to it. Now, CDs, a lot of people didn't like, but I'm the kind of person that almost prefers like a horn over a cone tweeter. Like, I like that super.
You like highs.
Yeah. Well, I love bass too, but I like. I guess I would say I don't like mids that
Yeah,
much.
thank
I
you.
like,
Thank you.
I like highs and
I
lows.
applaud this man. I know I like this guy.
Like
You
I
know
said,
what?
I'm not a
As
musician.
I hate mid-range.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
it has its place, and I know people are going to say, "Oh, what's he talking about?"
Yeah.
I'm all about bass and treble.
Yeah.
Bass, just like the song.
Yeah.
Bass and treble.
Yeah.
Okay. Mid-range, especially when I'm on stage. I sometimes I've used in-ear monitors, but I don't particularly care for myself personally. I like the old school. I like if the monitor is on the floor and it's right.
Yeah.
I love it because I can talk. I can hear what's going on. I don't feel isolated, even though you can do your own mix and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But if it's that mid range, it gets honky sounding, and I don't like that.
To me,
So
it's
it's a personal opinion. Audio guys, don't get on me. All right?
To me, it pulls away from the. I don't know, the good stuff. I don't know.
And here's maybe this is part of it too. For me, maybe is the records I grew up with didn't have a lot of mid-range on it.
No.
Because they didn't really, it was all about top and bottom.
Right.
And all the Beatles records and the Stones records, all those things you had bottom and you had top. There really wasn't a lot of mid-range in those days. So I think I'm used to hearing that. Maybe that's part
when
of
I had
it.
the Kenwood like 20-channel slide switch equalizer,
Yeah.
it always just looked like a smiley face.
Oh, yeah.
You
That's
know-
the general thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, but not to interrupt, but I got distracted. But the whole question where this all came from was, why is tape getting it? Like, I don't understand. I'm a music guy, and I don't understand why tape would be catching on now. Is there?
Well, it's warmer.
It's still analog.
It's still analog, and analog is warm. Digital is cold.
It's got more warmth to it. So think of it this way, and this is the easiest way I can think to explain it, is that digital media, whether it be streaming, MP3s, whatever, is a computer rendition of an audio wave. So even if you zoom into this audio wave, the closer as close as you can get, you're still going to see ones and zeros. It's blocks. It's choppy. Whereas an analog recording, whether it be on tape or on an album, it's going to be a smooth, actual recording of an audio wave. So it's not digitally duplicated or digitally replicated, so to say.
That makes perfect sense.
So,
I've never understood that, and that was the most perfectly it's ever been explained.
And, when I was a kid, we had those 4-track tape recorders that you record your demos on and stuff. And for years, I hated that hiss from the tape so bad. And then after years of recording digitally, I've never missed something so much. Because
it's not strange?
It gives some realism
You're talking
to
about
it.
it's almost like the white noise. Just
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now, you know what people are doing in studios? This is everywhere. Every major label record, when they produce it, they put a track of white noise that they mix low. They mix it low into the mix because that's what gives it the air. That's what brings the
So something we've been
realism.
trying with Dolby and everything, trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to put it back.
Yeah.
But you know what? Why don't I just go? If you could afford it, go to a actually reel-to-reel machine, a 16-track or 8-track machine. And actually, a lot of people are doing that now. They're still recording digitally because that's obviously the format we use now. It's very it's
Well, did you
very
see
adaptable.
the Sound City documentary?
Yes.
With Dave Grohl?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it. It's on Hulu, but
it's very good.
Sound City was a studio in West Hollywood, California forever. Nirvana recorded Nevermind there. Everyone who's anyone recorded there. That's where Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham recorded their solo record that was heard by Mick Fleetwood when he was mixing another record there. To said, hey, let me invite these two to join Fleetwood Mac. Petty everyone recorded there. Well, when the studio went out of business, Dave Grohl put together a bunch of money and he hosted this documentary about Sound City Studios, and he bought the board from the studio, moved it into his home studio.
Okay, I think you might have shown me part of
Yeah,
this.
it's
very, very cool.
incredible. But they had a 24-track 2-inch tape, so 216. No, is it
224s?
224s. So they had a 48-track 2-inch tape.
Okay, so another
studio.
stupid layman question.
Yeah.
Does the bigger tape give you more warmth?
Yes. Because
you actually get more of it.
Yeah.
Is it just the sound of the tape sliding across the heads?
No. So think of a tape as being a road, right? It's like a highway, and you have how many lanes?
Oh, so you can put more sounds under that.
If you have, there is like a 2-inch 8-track machine, right? So that means each of those 8 tracks now has more lane.
Right.
So you have more surface space to affect.
Right.
So it's just the surface of how much
well, it's the width between the tracks.
Yeah,
Okay. And
yeah.
when I recorded everything I recorded in my career up to 1990, but before I moved to Florida, was done on a 16-track Ampex. Okay, which is it's one of the most desirable machines.
Yeah.
And actually, that machine was in Media Sound in New York City, and my producer bought it in 1979 for $9,000. Okay.
Yeah.
He still has it now.
Oh,
It's worth-
wow.
Yeah. And a Singer Without a Song and all that stuff was recorded on that machine. Now,
That's a $50,000 machine.
yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, and I like it, and of course I recorded in the 80s and 90s on 24-track too, which is great as well. Same thing, 2-inch tape, right? 30 IPS, but there's more bass on the 16-track. There's more low end, where the 24-track is a lot thinner on the bass end because of the width of the tracks.
Yeah.
Okay, you got less,
space.
The width is bigger. So I prefer 16-track.
Yeah.
And there's enough if you do play your chest right with if you're doing some bouncing of tracks. It's interesting to work on a 16-track machine because then you don't produce stuff either because you got millions. Like, look today now, you got hundreds of tracks. I mean, you can go on
Unlimited.
and it's unlimited. You can just do this thing. But there's something to be said about having a little, like not limited to even a 4-track. But I mean, if you have 16, 24 tracks is plenty of stuff. Some of the best records ever were made on 4-track, and that was Sgt. Pepper. Sgt. Pepper was done on 2 4-track machines. Can you imagine that?
8 tracks.
Yeah,
Total.
is it crazy? 8-track. You know, Jimi Hendrix records, 8-track.
There's a movie in production right now about the album Nebraska by Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
Now, a little bit of music nerd here. I'm a giant Bruce Springsteen fan. Nebraska was an album he put out in 1982. He recorded the entire album on a 4-track machine in a cabin. And
probably a reel-to-reel 4-track, like a T-Ask or something like that.
I don't know.
It would have been a cassette. It was probably a 4-track reel-to-reel.
Well, it was 82, so it probably would have been a reel-to-reel machine, like a teak machine.
That's true,
or something.
right? Okay, so 82.
But yeah, so he puts this record out, and it's a critical failure. Like, people they were looking for something. They wanted, 10th Avenue Freeze Out. They wanted Born to Run. They wanted that. He makes this record, singer-songwriter, just, as time goes on. Well, number one, after he made that record, it was such a failure that the Born in the USA album was his I'm sorry to the record label, let me give you what you want here. And, of course, that becomes a giant, giant, massive success. Mm-hmm. But that was his way of saying, hey, I was trying to do something artsy and something that meant something to me. Sorry that the critics didn't like it. Yeah. Well, now that movie is being made, the story of that album and his, going into the woods to find himself is being made into a movie, and Jeremy Allen White from Shameless, The Bear, Iron Claw is playing Bruce Springsteen in the movie.
Yeah, well, see, there you go. Now it's appreciated.
Yeah. 4 tracks. It was guitar, vocals, a harmonica, and his harmonies, and that's it.
It's what we call a stripped-down album now, but he was doing it already, when it was, just as a demo.
42 years ago.
Some of the best stuff I've ever done is some of the demo stuff.
Yeah.
Where I go back in and go, you know what? Maybe it's because I just wrote it, and even though I knew I wasn't recording something to release it, it was fresh, And then sometimes you go in there and as an artist, I've gone in where the final product, I like it or I wouldn't put it out. But I mean, I go, there's something about the original demo that it's not. That's happened occasionally.
It's the pressure. It's when you're demoing something, there's no pressure. You're not going to release this anyway.
Yeah.
You don't have that weight on you. But it's just like I've said, I can practice a guitar part for 6 months, have it completely down. You hit that record button, and I don't know anything.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's different. It's different moods.
It's because that voice in your head that keeps repeating on loop, going, "Don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up." Yeah. When you hit that record button, your physical body language changes. I think. I feel like anyway.
Yeah, it can happen.
Maybe that doesn't happen when you got 4 a.m. last calls.
Well, I'll tell you when it does happen is when you're at Abbey Road and Joe Cocker's standing up in the control room. That's when it happens.
Yeah.
You get a little bit nervous.
Well, so speaking of that, the track limitations. So now you're doing Paul is All, right?
Yeah.
And so you and I have another question about that. But so when you're performing this live, you're not using tracks.
No tracks.
No tracks. Just the 3 of you and your band. Your rhythms.
Jimmy Pappas on drums and vocals.
Yeah.
Leo Rojo keyboards, keyboard bass sometimes, and guitar.
Yeah.
And vocals, and I play piano on the piano songs, for like Live and Let Die and all that stuff like that, My Love. And then I'm on acoustic guitar, mandolin on one song, and then of course bass.
Bass.
Yeah, but we all sing. They sing all the background vocals with me and 3-part harmonies and certain things. But we do it as a trio, as a power trio.
So doing that as a trio, obviously everyone has to wear multiple hats.
Yep.
Does Jimmy do anything other than drums? Because Jimmy's a mostly instrumental suit. Jimmy Pappas couldn't do.
Well, he plays guitar. He's a great guitar player.
Right, yeah. But I mean, on this show,
he doesn't need because Leo's handling it all.
Oh, okay.
and Leo's doing the mix from the stage, by the way.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, we have all the scenes set. We know exactly how we want it. The monitors are all set, and what we do is we come as a total self-contained show. With visuals,
yeah,
which we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah,
and we just send 2 lines out to the sound guys hate us at the theater, but it's my show. I'm the producer, so that's the way I do it. I'm tired of getting. There's a lot of great sound people out there, but I'm tired of getting destroyed by people that don't know this music.
Yeah.
And I treat it with reverence and respect. And the people in that audience are paying their hard-earned money. It better be good.
Yeah.
Not only the performance, but the sound better be right.
Yeah.
So what we do is we do it self-contained, and then we send 2 lines out to the house, and they turn up like a big stereo.
Oh, that's awesome.
And of course, we'll work with them, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But actually, most sound guys are very happy with that. They say, "This is great."
They
love
get
what
the
you're
night
doing."
off?
Yeah, no, they're good. They get to babysit, and it's all good.
Yeah.
Not everybody has to be a genius. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
We just, but we have it down where it really works well for us, and we bring our own monitors, our own, backstage, all the stage stuff is us, and then we just run into the system, and we've done it in several venues very successfully, so not any problems. So that's just kind of way we do it.
And when is the show going on now?
April 14th.
April 14th.
3 p.m. at the Ritz Theater.
Awesome.
And they just turned 100 years old last year.
Oh wow!
Putting
100th
on
anniversary.
the Ritz at the Ritz.
Yeah. Down historic district down in Sanford.
Downtown Sanford.
Yeah, it's a great venue.
I'll find the link for tickets, and I'll put it in the description down
that
here
would
for
be
everybody.
That would be stellar.
But so when you do that show, this was what was going to be my question. So first of all, it was like when you're talking about limitation of tracks recording on analog machines. Obviously, if you have a finite amount of tracks, then you have a limitation of when you're doing overdubs and all these other things, right? So the same has to be said that for when you're putting together a show like this that is a tribute to Paul McCartney.
Yep.
Selecting the song list, you have 60 years of music to go through.
Mm-hmm.
How do you trim that down? You said the show's 2 hours long, right?
It's 2 hours to 2 hours and 15 minutes because of the visuals.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a
so
film show.
that show could easily be 6 hours long.
Easily.
It could be 12 hours long.
Yeah.
Like
we'd have to serve dinner and lunch,
Yeah. How did you is a lot of it personal preference on what you like, or is it trying to tell a story to the audience and making sure the right songs are in place?
It's actually a little bit of both.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I got to do. I'm portraying a guy that I got to sing. Different eras. When he was a young guy, 21 years old, and then right up to current. The last thing he did, "Come On to Me," which is from Egypt Station. Okay, that came out in 2018.
Well,
so I do that song.
A
So
guy that
the
you
voices
portrayed,
change.
a guy that you portrayed for over 3,000 shows at Epcot.
No, 17,000 shows.
Oh my God!
Whoa,
Yeah.
17,000.
Yeah, at
What?
Epcot. Yeah, well, I was there for 11 years. So 97 to 2008, we did 5 shows a day, 6 days a week, 50 weeks out of 52 weeks. And you do the math on it, it was like 17.5, something like that.
Oh my! I've never done 17,000 anything.
But you're still trying.
I may have pushed the X button on the controller 17,000 times.
Probably 18,000.
Dear Lord, 17,000 shows.
Yeah. So
Not to get off what he's doing now, but
No,
he was
I'm
he
sorry,
said
that's
one night,
mind-blowing.
It was British Invasion at Epcot, right?
Yeah.
So they're doing that every day. He's like,
It was
one
a
of
lot of
they're
fun.
playing. Here, John Stamos comes walking through, and he's just like sitting there grooving, loving the show. Yeah.
Yeah, he came up.
Yeah.
Greg Brady came by.
Yeah.
Brady Bunch.
Barry Williams.
With his grandchildren. That made me feel old. And that was 20 years ago. He goes, you guys are great. You guys are great. I said, hey, Johnny Bravo.
Oh,
It was Johnny Bravo.
Yeah.
If you're old enough
I know
to know
Johnny
what that
Bravo.
is. Right, Johnny. Very good. See?
All right, bye-bye.
And you said you only do video games. There you go. But the cool thing about it is he came up there and said, you guys are great. I love the Beatles, man. Fantastic. And sorry, man, I got to go after my grandchildren. And they were running around. It's like, wow. Okay, there you go. But he is older than I am and the rest of the guys. So, but anyway, going back to the show,
picking
it
up
was
the
really
song,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, I got to make sure that I can do the song justice.
Okay.
If I don't feel if I don't feel right about singing it,
Yeah.
if I'm representing this guy, which I am, it's a tribute to McCartney. So you got to make sure that it's correct. And then also some of the songs there's too much production on it. There's no way we can cover it as a.
There's no way you can do it as a 3-piece.
But Live and Let Die is probably the most challenging, but we'd be able to pull it off. So it's kind of cool.
When you just said that, so I remember when REM was doing their reunion show a couple years ago, and Michael Stipe was saying when we went into rehearsal, he's like, we're going through our catalog, we're picking what songs we want to play. He goes, and some songs we played him, and we're just like, we're just not. He goes, it doesn't feel good. Like we're not those people anymore. And trying to play songs we wrote when we were 19, it's like I know people would love to hear that, but we got 10 other songs for them, so let's just skip over that.
Yeah.
And I guess it's got to feel that way too. Is that when you're rehearsing the song for the show, if it doesn't feel good to you, it's probably you're not going to be able to sell it to them.
That's
you know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah, you got
Like,
to
you gotta love
you got to
what
be
you're-
in 110%.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it's funny you say that because Paul himself, in when he did the first tour of America in 1976 with Linda and Wings, it was the famous Wings Over America live album and all that he put out in '77. I saw him at the Garden. I had scalped a ticket. I was 17, and first time I ever saw him live, and I've seen him on every tour since then. So I know a little bit about him.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because he didn't do Hey Jude in 1976, and they asked him about it. He did Long and Winding Road. He only did like 5 Beatles songs because he was it was too close. You got to remember they were only broken up for 6 years, so he was really trying to push the new album. Yeah, and Speed of Sound was the big album, Let Him In, and all that stuff. Which we do Let Him In from Speed of Sound in the Paul McCartney show. And he didn't do Hey Jude, and they asked him about it. Well, how can you do Hey Jude? You know, you did Long and Winding Road, and he said, and he talked about it in an interview at that time, and he said it just didn't feel right. I wasn't ready to do it.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it. You know, now he does it. You know, now I do it. I have to do it. You know? Can't do not Hey Jude. And then my wife Elena, which I have to bring up my wife Elena because she's like a fourth member of the production. Elena De La Pena. Okay, she is doing all the visuals for the show.
Wow.
Her and I put it together, and she's manually. There's no auto thing on it. The whole presentation of almost 600 photographs and 2 films are presented by her. She's running it and she's artistic. It changes. You know, it's not going to be the same every time because she's going according to the pace of the show. You know how fast the song might be.
Yeah.
And so artistically, she's adding an artistry to the thing because it's not on an autopilot. It's her doing it.
Oh wow!
So I'm very proud of her doing that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she does a great job, and I love her for that.
Well, she's a choreographer, so
she's comes from a flamenco background too, so she's an artist in her own right. Matter of fact, you asked me early when we were off mic that is she dancing in the show? Well, this time she's not because she's doing this, which is a big job for her to do.
Yeah.
But eventually, we're going to figure out a way for her to do at least one dance, where maybe one shot will be up there, and she'll be able to skip from behind the up in the balcony where she is with the laptop, and maybe be able to come and do the dance for 3 or 4 minutes, and then be able to get back there and do it. Which
gotta have her dance with the laptop while she's.
Oh yeah. Hey, good suggestion.
Yeah, she could probably do that.
Yeah, she could do it. Oh, she's got the talent to do it.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
it would be like those New York pizzeria guys. You got to have it up on one hand like this.
Yeah,
I'm a problem solver.
What do you think, Elena? You want to try it?
Yeah.
There you go.
But the cool thing of so here's a good one. What was there one particular song or a song you can think of that when you were putting this set together where you're like you wanted to play it but then you went through it and you're like it just didn't make the cut for you?
Yeah, Silly Love Songs.
Really? That's a great song
I
too.
know it's a great song. It is. I just didn't feel I could sing it where I'm comfortable enough with it. I could sing it, but it's but I might try it again. That was a couple years ago,
Yeah.
But
Just
I love
didn't
that.
feel right.
Yeah. I love that thing in the beginning.
Yeah.
But maybe in the future I'll take another step. And also because there's horn parts on it too, and technically it might
that
be
song's very
not only
brass
how
heavy.
I feel about singing it. It's also how much production is on because there's all kinds of stuff on.
Yeah.
it.
But
Might
you
be a
can't
little
do that
different.
song without that.
Oh yeah, that's the hook, musical hook. Yeah.
I'm back to solving problems. You got the guy that plays the piano and the bass at the same time. You strap a horn to his face. You get him going.
Hey, what do you say, Leo? You want to try it?
Strap a
Leo's
horn.
saying, "Hey, man, I got enough on my plate. Don't even go there with this."
Oh, you're only playing 2 instruments? Come on.
Well, let me tell you.
Put some effort in.
Hey, listen, one of the best parts that he does, and it's amazing. There's one thing. What song is it on? He does a thing where he's playing the keyboard and he's playing with his left hand. He's got the guitar turned up enough where he can kind of hammer it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he's another guy.
Oh man.
So yeah, he's got a few tricks up his sleeve that work really well for a 3-piece.
That is
That's
great.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
But that's so I've got the video for So you put out this trailer.
Yeah.
It's actually you've got it listed as a promo, but I mean, really, it's a trailer of the show. Like I think of it, if you're going to go to a theater and see a 2-hour production, it's like you're going to see a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And the way you align the songs and the way you arrange this, you're telling the story of Paul McCartney. Like this is.
It's in chronological order. Pretty. I mean, it skips around the songs, but it's a mixture of Wings, solo McCartney, and Beatles. You know.
But I think still.
But it covers 60. It's not chronological. It covers 60 years of his career.
Yeah, and I think mostly like the way I kind of look at it is it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be chronological order.
No.
It's like you're telling the story of like why it is that every musician in the world knows this guy's name.
Right.
You know, you don't, and that's one of the things I try to make clear to people. You don't have to like every artist that's ever been influential, but you got to know their name. You got to know where they came from. And
Right.
and with Paul, so many people have admiration and respect for everything this guy's done, but even those who don't still know his name.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah,
So
he's a true icon.
Oh yeah.
He's a true icon. If
So
they-
this is
a lot of people get legendary status put on upon that don't. You know, it's arguable if
So
they really deserve it.
instantaneous. Yeah.
But this guy deserves it, and that's why I really enjoy doing him. You know?
So this is the promo, and this is actually the band playing live.
Yep. No tracks.
Yeah. That's so crazy. That's so crazy.
What are you on ham on that bass?
That's one thing Paul doesn't get enough credit for is how great of a bass player he is.
Oh, yeah. Very underrated.
God, all this sounds so much better in the headphones than it did on the TV. Wow.
Not bad.
Yeah.
It's a fun show to do. It really
Yeah.
is. I always get very stoked before I go up to do it.
What year is that Hoffner you're playing?
That's a 70.
Okay. And what year was the one he just recently got returned to him?
61.
Wow.
Yeah. Mandolin time.
There we go.
This is from 2008's Memory Almost Full. Dance Tonight.
Wow.
Band on the Run album.
Huh.
You see the Red Wing sticker on there?
Yeah.
I'll tell you about that in a sec.
That's not your guitar, is it?
No, that's mine.
Is it?
Yeah. This is coming into part 2.
Yeah.
After a film, the Braverman film we show. Well, I'll tell you about that in a bit. Solo from Abbey Road. Cool. Jimmy Pappas on drums, baby.
Jimmy. I love it. Jimmy always looks like a guy from the neighborhood. Like that guy's sitting on a stoop somewhere telling you about the Yankees game last night.
That's Jimmy Pappas.
Yeah.
This song is one of my favorites to do.
Me too. I love it.
The bridge right here.
Well, you can sing your butt off, man.
Yeah.
Going back to
City,
Cavern days.
Yeah.
Got that Les Paul going. Yeah,
Oh,
baby.
yeah.
Okay, so here he is playing left-hand bass and the strings while I'm playing piano.
That harmony, man. That's great.
this ever-changing world in which we live in makes you give in and cry. So live and let die.
Lisa, that sounds so much bigger than 3 people.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I love everything you do, but if you ever did a show where it was just you on a piano and vocals, the whole show, I'd love to watch that. I like watching you play piano and sing. I just think that's...
So where do I get tickets for this?
We're going to pull the website. It's the Ritz Theater in Sanford. If you go to their website, you can buy the tickets for that night.
Hell
yeah.
April 14th, 3 p.m.
Is it just one show?
Yep.
Just at okay.
It's just an afternoon matinee.
So make sure you get to that one because it's the only one.
Yeah.
That's definitely going to sell out. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun to do it.
Yeah, and you know that the thing that I think that so you went and saw Paul when he was here just recently, right?
Yeah, in 2022 at Camping World Stadium with Elena. We went and saw him.
Yeah.
She never saw him before, so she was really excited to see him.
When you go to see a show like that, and it's not a fault of the artist or of anything, he's at a level where if you're going to go see Paul McCartney, you're going to see him with 100,000 other people.
Yep.
That's just, there's no way around that.
Yep.
When you go see this show, you get to see the show in a more intimate environment. It's more comfortable, and you get to kind of be around a whole lot of other people who have a very similar feeling as you, is that this music means something to you.
Exactly.
And when you have it in a smaller setting like that, you stand less a chance of there's a whole bunch of people at that show at Camping World that are there because they've never seen him before. It's a hot ticket, and they just want to say they did.
Yeah.
Whereas a show like yours, everyone's there for a reason because there's some story that they have with these songs and with this music.
Right. How the music affects, a memory of their life. A lot of people I've met say, The Long and Winding Road is one of my favorite songs, and it's because I was 15 years old and, something happened in my life, and that song really meant something to me. And the Beatles' music in general, I mean, Paul's music as well. I mean, there's a generation out there that really grew up on Wings stuff because they were too little for, too young for the Beatles.
Yeah.
So there's Wings fans that, it was funny. I did one thing at one show where I did the opening part of Pipes of Peace, the title track from the album. I light a candle to our love, that part, right?
Yeah.
So I did that, and I did it, just the beginning of it, and then instead of doing the song, I went into Hey Jude right after it. And after the concert, this girl came up to me, this was not too long ago, and she said, "Oh, I love what you did, but you broke my heart because you did Pipes of Peace. I wanted to hear the whole song. You only did a piece of it." And I was like, who would have known that song?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But she was a McCartney head,
Yeah,
She,
yeah.
It's just like there's Deadheads, there's McCartney heads.
Yeah.
Back when music was more ingested in albums
Yes.
as opposed to songs, I was always the guy that was like, my favorite songs were never the radio play song. They were never the song that anybody else liked.
deep
It was-
tracks.
It was always like exactly deep track.
tracks,
It was always some track that like you'd play it for somebody and they'd be like, "Who's this?" It's like it's the Beatles, you know. They're like, "Oh, I didn't know that." No, I've always preferred usually some deeper track.
And that's I even when I was growing up as a kid, I mean, I listened to all the album, I mean, I didn't just buy the 45. I went, if I liked the 45, I went bought the album, and then I'd say, "Oh man, listen to this."
Well, that was part of a statement I made not too long ago. Is that so now if you listen to music and if you have a Spotify membership, every new album that comes out, you get to hear the album. Most people make playlists. They listen to the songs they want to listen to. They don't listen to full albums. But back when I was a kid, it's like if you got $10, you got to buy one album.
Yep.
And you were going to listen to the album from start to finish over and over and over again until you got tired of it and then went back to one of your old records or got a new record.
Right.
But you listened to the whole album and you got to know every single song.
Right.
And there's albums to this day that if I hear a single on the radio, I immediately know what song's coming next, even though it wasn't a single. And
because we had a turntable and that's what was happening, or a cassette deck,
cassette
whatever.
player, yeah.
But it's interesting because I remember an interview with John Lennon shortly before he passed away, and he was talking about sequencing of albums. He said, he hated the Beatles hated they got the marketing strategy of Capitol Records, but from all their albums up till Sgt. Pepper, where they put a stop on it. No more. When we put this album out, it's the sequencing. There's no art changes. There is no shuffling of the songs or taking a song off. Capitol Records made so much millions and millions more dollars because they would hold back 2 or 3 tracks from a Beatles record, and then over about a year they could put another album together and with another thing and create another Beatles album for the U.S. market only.
Right. I've got the one
like Yesterday and Today is one of one,
and also
which became the Butcher cover. The
right.
whole thing.
The Butcher with the dolls.
Yeah.
But also the one for Lady Madonna, the Hey Jude.
That's right.
I've got that one on vinyl because that was only a U.S. release, but it had like Lady Madonna, Hey Jude, and it had a bunch of tracks on it that they didn't put on anything else.
Yeah,
but
because they were singles. What happens? They put the early ones on one side, and then they had the late ones on side too, and that came out in 1970 when they were breaking up. So.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what they were involved with is very important to have the sequencing. And Lennon was talking about it. He said, we hated that they would just take a song from Rubber Soul and hold it and then put it on the Revolver album, which was done, a year later. I mean, they spent time not only on mixing the albums, they were very, very thorough about the sequencing. How are you going to listen to it? Because it was meant to be listened to, not as one track and skip to the other one. You're supposed to listen to it from side 1 to side 2, or if it's on tape, without interruption while flipping the record. But it's a sequenced piece of art. They looked at it as an art piece.
Yeah.
And that's the way most of us artists do, That's the thing that's been lost with Spotify and all that. People just go up there and, and it's not really, I mean, you put it up there. My stuff is up there in order as it is on the CD, and I did sequence those things.
Yeah.
But back then it was different. It was like more important. People are not really aware of it.
See, I know I'm the minority in this feeling, but like for me, what I love about Spotify and the reason why I have a membership, not to mention the fact that it's a great tool for podcasters and for the stuff that we do. It's great for that. But for me, I'll be watching something and I'll go, oh, you know what? I've never really dove into the James Gang, and now tomorrow I'm going to listen to the first 3 James Gang albums in their entirety because that's how I love the fact of going, oh, name a band. I'm going to go back and find their first album, listen to their first album, and on Spotify I can do that. I can listen to it track for track in its entirety and, and consume music that way. So it really has, no matter what your tastes or styles or how you like to listen to music, you can do anything you want to with that app. So I get that part of it.
Yep.
But at the same point, like if I really like an album, and the way I always say is like if I listen to there's an album I found years ago, an artist named C.W. Stone King, really lo-fi blues musician from Australia. Found him on Spotify, loved it, went to his website, bought his album on vinyl. I own that album now. Because if it's something that really, really catches me, I'm going to go buy it anyway. I still buy music and I still own, I buy records all the time.
Yep.
But I love the exploration side of it, of that app.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
It's just cool to be able to go back and hear stuff in the way that it was presented. And that's what I love about albums. And that's why I'll always be an album guy. It's like, I like to hear, because I've put albums together myself, where I'm like, but it's the way the story,
it's the
art,
flow.
It's a story
flow
arc,
of it too.
Flow of it,
Yeah.
And that's what I like about albums. And I'll always be an album guy because whenever someone says, this artist and like they had these hit singles, and I'm like, but what's their coup d'etat? What's their album? When you go, if you're gonna listen to this artist, you have to listen to this album. And a lot of times now there isn't that. There's artists who obviously do have those albums, but a lot of artists are just singles artists, and they don't have that album where I'm like, man, Bob Dylan, Highway 61 Revisited, Blonde on Blonde, Beach Boys, Pet Sounds, Beatles, pick one, Abbey Road, Rubber Soul, Sgt. Pepper's, the White Album.
DMX,
the sequencing is
DMX. There you go. Or Dark Side of the Moon.
Yep.
Further, Green Day, Dookie, amazing, incredible album. Sublime, self-titled. Nirvana, Nevermind. Pearl Jam 10. You go through these bands, and you're like, listen to this album, and I remember, in my lifetime, I have given away A Love Supreme by John Coltrane so many times that I do not own a copy of my own right now, because I've been in conversation talking about that record, and someone goes, I've never heard it. I'm going to just take this. Just listen to this.
You're sharing the love.
This is
You're sharing the love.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think is so cool about, like, what you're saying, and building that story arc and making a story out of it and giving it some. I saw one of your pals on Hulu the other day. I was going through looking at things, and there's a documentary called Hired Hands, and it's about the greatest hired hands in the history of rock and roll, and they're talking about guys who like went from being, hey, can you play on this record for me, to being, you're going to be my touring guy for 20 years. And the main focus of the whole documentary, can you guess who it was?
Who was it?
Liberty DeVito.
Liberty.
Liberty's played on your records before.
Yes.
And Liberty DeVito.
He
do you
played
know
on
the
Schiller,
name?
he played on Schiller Theater.
No, and I'm just mad that I don't know the name Liberty DeVito.
Yeah.
That's
But
a
you
great
do.
name.
But you will now. And
Yeah.
here's the cool thing about it is that Liberty, he comes from, the Ringo influence.
Yeah.
Parts. Okay.
Play to the song, not
right.
yeah.
Don't play what the song needs, and don't go too far with it.
Yeah.
And the great grooves, like Ringo had. He was a really the way he laid the stuff down, and Liberty comes from that. And his drum parts are on classic, iconic Billy Joel songs. I mean, I believe the first album was Turnstiles. Okay.
Yeah.
And all through all those classic albums, The Stranger, everything. When you hear this drum part, it's Liberty.
He was Billy Joel's
drummer
touring and recording drummer for 30 years.
Yeah, incredible.
And to the point where, like, when he got married, Billy Joel was at his wedding.
Sure.
Like, he was a part of the group. And
Liberty's got a new book out that he wrote that I think Billy did the forward for.
And you
not
said,
too long ago.
you said he started as a roadie?
No, he was just a session guy. Just like,
okay.
just, hey, we need a drummer for this part. Can
Well,
you sit in?
actually, he's from New York, and
Yeah.
he was in bands, prior to Billy Joel.
Yeah.
He was, but he added so much to Billy Joel's records.
Yeah.
And I remember one time being at his house down in Warner Park when he lived in Warner Park. He's back up. I believe he lives in Brooklyn now again.
Yeah.
I said, we had known each other through some mutual friends, and he asked me to come over, and we spent. I had a couple beers together, and I said to him, I said, so where's the Gold Records?
Yeah.
Because he had his nice little studio, his drums and all that. He goes, oh, they're in the top of the closet.
What?
I said, you remember what you said? This goes back to what you said. You don't put nothing on the wall, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But this shows you. But this shows you the guy was like, he's done some great work as a professional drummer, and he didn't even had him up on. I said, well, can I see one of them? Yeah, sure. So I walked with him to like this bedroom. Yeah.
You said he's a Brooklyn guy. He probably handed you the steps and go, they're up there. Go get them.
No, he went up there. He just handed it to me. He goes, there he goes. It's, the gold record for Turnstiles. I mean, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? The Stranger, 52nd Street. Hello.
Yeah.
Glass houses. Here you go.
Yeah.
I'm going.
See, he's cooler than me though, because I don't have anything on my walls because I really don't have much.
You don't have no gold records.
Right. No, if I had a gold record, I'm going to put it on a medallion and wear that thing around.
Yeah, something. I mean,
walking down the street with it on.
If you had a gold record, maybe you put it up there.
You're hanging.
And it goes to show you how, there's a lot of musicians that have done a lot of great things in their career, and they're humble.
100%.
Humility is a wonderful thing to have, man. You don't have to do that, but.
And he can still.
But I wanted to see it.
He can still walk down the street and hang out at a bar, go to a restaurant, and nobody bothers him.
Yeah, and he's real busy up in New York. I think he plays with a band called the Hitmen, I believe.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite drummers, and that's why I was really happy that he was willing to play on my
just
record.
when you watch that, so if you have Hulu, watch. It's called Hired Hands. Watch that documentary because literally they focus on him. There's a couple of other people, but the story keeps coming back to Liberty and following Liberty, like where he's at now. I mean, what's so funny is like everybody they talk to, it's like, why did he make it so far in the business? So like, he's just a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great
guy.
guy.
He's a great player, but he's also a great guy. So it's like if you got to pick, like, hey, I'm gonna be. Like they said, the big tour that Billy Joel did, where it was like where he played in Russia during the Cold War.
Yeah, when he flipped the piano over.
Yeah, when he
because they wouldn't shut the lights off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, that tour, he's like, if you're going to go on a 14-month world tour, think about that. A year from today, where I'll be still on this tour. That a 14-month tour, and there was Billy Joel. They're like, well, obviously you're gonna pick guys you want to be around for 14 months, and Liberty was just always one of those guys. They're like, yeah, man, I love having him around, and he's a great drummer too. But like, that's something to be said.
Yeah, I played with him live a couple of times. He actually played on a gig that I booked back in 2001 or 2002 when we did Chiller Theater, and he played on 4 tracks on the album. Jimmy Pappas played on 1. And I did the rest of the drums myself. And it was so much fun to have him in, because the title track is something that I think he enjoyed doing, because I wrote it about being a kid watching Chiller Theater and Creature Features on TV. You know, the Universal Monster stuff, and, the House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price. You know, we grew up, in the 60s, 50s and 60s watching those iconic B movies,
Yeah.
And so in 2001, I was trying to think of my next project to do, and I wanted to come up with something different. And one night I was watching Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, the original version, and because I have a huge film and video collection of all my favorite movies I grew up with as a kid, up watching in New York on Channel 11.
Yeah.
And so I said, I was thinking, hey, Chiller Theater, maybe I'll write a song called Chiller Theater. So the next day I went and sat down at the guitar, and because it's more of like a guitar, because it was a rock song,
Yeah.
And it came, what sounds like it sounds like a Frankenstein monster. And then I was, then I made a demo of it.
Yeah.
And then Liberty, I was going to have him come up and play on a couple other songs, and I said, listen, man, this is the one we're going to do first. And he says, and I told him it's Chiller Theater, And so he came in, bought his own snare drum, and used a house kit. Also, I got to put out a plug for my buddy David Michael. Dave Michael with his Studio USA in Oviedo. Highly recommended. Anybody wants to go record, go to Dave. He's the best. And I've been working with him for 30 years. He did Matthew Street. He's done all my records here in
the
Florida.
US,
in Florida, yeah. And a great guy to work with, so check him out. And so he put the snare drum in, and I remember he had a pencil with him behind his ear, and so we were rehearsing song. It was just me and him playing to a track, because the track had the effects on it. Because what I did, instead of having guitar solo happening in the middle, I took samples of these horror movies, my favorite horror movies, and the 4 measures where the solo would be is the audio from the films.
Yeah, yeah.
So he wanted to mark down where that was happening, and I saw him he'd write a little note with pencil on the snare drum head. And so that was it. We did a couple of takes, smoking.
Yeah.
It was so much fun to play with him, and I go, wow. Because I remember seeing him on 3 of the Billy Joel tours. 78, I saw him at the Garden 3 times, 78, 80, and 83, and I never thought that I would have him on my record 20 years later. How cool is that?
Or that he'd be hanging out at your house and just be friends. Yeah, it's crazy
really
how
good.
that is.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, and I hope to see him sometime. I haven't seen him in years, but we're friends on Facebook and all that stuff.
So you got a new record out, Sky's the Limit.
Yep.
That's the newest album.
Yep.
That is your 12th or 13th album? 12th album.
Yep.
And I'm sure you've already got plans for the 13th. We don't have to talk about that because that's not happening now.
Not yet.
No.
Actually, the big thing is I'm re-releasing Welcome to My World.
Okay.
Yeah, and Matthew Street will be out next year for its 30th anniversary, and I'm releasing a DVD compilation of my career.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, which is really cool. Some new stuff. That Paul is All video you show will be on it.
Yeah.
But it's my
Abbey
Abbey
Road
Road tour.
visits. Yeah.
And it's gone now with AI. I can go back on the old stuff. The Kennedy video is going to be on there.
Okay.
Passing the torch, and it's being all cleaned up. And my friend John Mondelli is doing all of the video work, putting it together, and the new menu and a new artwork. The original version came out 10 years ago, and it was a test thing that I did, and I've done so much since then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to putting one DVD out that's goes back to the days and comes up to current,
encompassing everything.
and it comes up to current day, including the McCartney stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna Ritz Theater. We want to remind everybody it's on the title of the video, so you can't miss it. I titled everything, so you have all the information, and then we're gonna put the ticket link up there. But 14th, which is what, Monday?
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah.
This coming Sunday, April 14th at the Ritz Theater in
At
Sanford.
3 p.m. Showtime.
3 p.m. matinee showtime. And it's Paul Is All, a tribute to Sir Paul McCartney by John Babcock.
Yep.
So you just gave me the what I needed, because I'm like, what song do I want to end the show on? We're gonna end it on Chiller Theater.
Cool.
Because that's another one of those records. When you put that record out, when you did the reissue, Heather loves this record because obviously there's songs on it that don't, not Chiller Theater, but
there's a loose theme to it.
Yeah, but there's like
Spirits on the Loose.
so many songs.
Yeah.
But that song, Chiller Theater, every kid remembers, like, it's of our age anyway.
Yeah.
You remember being up on the weekends when you had those B-movie, like Up All Night with
Svengoolie.
Yeah, Svengoolie, and like
Yeah.
Up All Night with Gilbert Gottfried and Rhonda Shear, where it's like
Yeah.
they had
Classic, man.
It was a movie show, but like they were hosting. You were
Yeah.
watching a movie on television,
Yeah.
and when you think Chiller Theater and like all those shows back in that time in the '60s, it was like, it's Saturday night. The kids don't have to go to school tomorrow. We're gonna put on a show where they get to watch horror movies, and we'll show them Frankenstein. And
It's funny,
Wolfman
kids actually know this stuff now because they know about the Universal monsters. So they at least know that. They might not know about the bug people, or or something
Or
like
the 50-foot woman.
the 50-foot woman, or the shrinking of the shrinking people, or whatever they are. But they know Universal monsters because of Universal Studios and all that. That's part of pop culture now. So
Oh, sure.
they eventually catch up.
and that will eventually come back around too.
Yeah, of course.
Because all those characters are being remade.
Absolutely.
I will say this: if I ever get a gold record, I will definitely be getting a ticket for it hanging from my rearview mirror and blinding people.
They're gonna love you, man. They're gonna love you.
I'm telling you, I'd have it like woven into my clothing, all kinds of stuff. Like I would not leave my house without a gold record in some way.
Awesome,
man. Yeah, you have to check that out. Like I said, Hired Hands, Liberty DeVito.
Yeah.
Because it's a great story, man. It's there's so many of those people that and that's the thing with. So you've got all of your records and all of your original music and all of your stories and all that. I mean, you may as well have lived 5 lifetimes,
I suppose,
with everything that you've experienced and seen. I mean, and then on top of that, you throw that into the bag. You were what, 5 when the Beatles were in that Sullivan?
Yeah, I 5. I know exactly what it was. I was 5 years, 10 days, and 2 hours old.
And that's the day you decided.
And my father, Jackie Babcock, and my mom, Angie, said, my brother wasn't born yet. He wasn't born until 66. So 64, February 9th, 64, they were playing live at the Ed Sullivan Theater, and I was an hour away in Nyack, and he says, you can stay up past your bedtime because there's a group from Liverpool, England called the Beatles on. And he knew Ringo. He didn't know the other guy.
Well, because he was a drummer.
He was a drummer, right? My father was a professional jazz drummer. So I sat there, and it came on. Ed, as soon as Ed came on, he introduced them. They came on, did the first 3 songs, and I go, oh, that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, wow.
But I never thought, I never thought I would be doing a tribute to Paul McCartney. But, who would have thought? But it was about, the music struck me amazing. And, hey, it doesn't hurt to have screaming girls love you.
Yeah.
Right?
I
So,
wouldn't know.
when you're a 5-year-old, when you're a 5-year-old, you wouldn't know that. That's funny.
That's true.
This guy, he's a funny guy. What do you mean, funny? Like I'm a funny, like a clown or something like that? Remember?
I
push my mic.
Goodfellas.
What?
No,
But-
so I saw that, and that was it.
Man, that's great. So yeah, I'm gonna put the links up for everybody so you can go and get your tickets. But definitely, you got to find a way to go out and see John Babcock. And then when you see him, just go up to him and say, "Hey, Dirt told me to come ask you that story about Joe Cocker." Just or whatever. Insert famous name there. Hey, tell me the story about, because he'll tell you the stories. He'll sell you some CDs, whatever he's got.
I got
there.
photographs. I got photographs to autograph. I got everything.
We
over
got this one that you can only buy this if you go to a Paul Is All show.
Yes.
It's not available online. It's not part of his streaming catalog.
No.
It's
It's
John Babcock, Paul Is All tribute album. And the only way you can get this is by going to see him live. You will not buy this anywhere else.
And it's also at my solo performances too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I play at the Magical Meat Boutique.
Oh, yeah. That's you outside of
Abbey Road. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. How much does this sell for?
15.
15.
Yeah.
All right.
2 for 25.
Hey.
But my wife, Elaine, of course, when she's not doing all this wonderful dancing that she does, which she will do in the future, and also doing all the visuals for the show, she does the merchandising as well. So, I can only wear so many hats, my friends.
Yeah.
I gotta,
But she wears the rest of them.
She wears, yeah, and the pants.
They laid all the hats out on the table, and they go, "You take half, I'll take half," and that's how this machine's gonna work.
John's like, "I'll take 3. Here's your 7."
Yeah.
There you go.
No, but because
this man has been around.
Because when he says, "I'll play the instruments," you're like, but he's counting all of them. He's like,
Right.
bass, drums, guitar. This is it.
Yeah.
That's 7 hats easy by themselves, right?
And you want me to sing too?
Yeah. And I have to remember the lyrics.
That's right.
What do you want from me?
That's right. What do you want from me?
And you have a good voice.
That's right.
So, Chiller Theater. Is this Liberty on playing drums on this?
Yes.
track? Oh wow.
Listen, I'm gonna have to let him know that he's in this podcast because he's gonna say, "Hey, man, thanks for mentioning me." Yeah, we mentioned you. Yeah.
Liberty DeVito. Listen to this track.
This is the Chiller Theater.
Chiller Theater, yeah.
Title track. What a groove.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see a monster stomping this immediately.
Yeah.
There you go.
When I was about 19 years old, front of the tomb, my blood ran cold. Being attacked by a big blonde 50-foot woman. The chill creeps up and down my spine, feeling the fear I just can't deny. All I wanna do is hide underneath the covers. Oh no, Chiller Theater.
I like a heavy-handed drummer, and he's really cracking them things, man.
Outer space, coming down to take the human race. A thing without a face won't make me feel better. Oh no, Chiller Theater.
The samples are coming up here, right? The solo part
after the bridge. Of course, all these things are from childhood memories.
Are they coming after me? Is there something underneath the bed? But it's just a fantasy. Television for a young boy's head. Creatures coming on tonight. Maybe I should leave the light on.
Love it.
I was trying to play that on guitar. That's pretty.
It sounds like any date I've been on.
Empires, werewolves, I've seen them for years.
That's awesome.
Fills me with fear.
All right. You've been listening to Pop Culture Radio. Again, John Babcock, All Is All, Ritz Theater, Sanford, Florida, April 14th, 3 p.m. Go get your tickets. Come see the show. 2-hour-long tribute to the music of Paul McCartney. We will see you next week. You guys have a good week.
Pop Culture Radio is a weird Florida production. Like and subscribe on your favorite platform.